Democrats all around the country are calling for uprising, violence, getting in the face of Republicans. And of course, they're blaming Donald J. Trump for all of it. To help me go through this, I have Roger Stone. Roger, welcome to the show.
Great to be back with you, Stephen.
All right. So Democrats around the country, I'm seeing mayors, senators, congresspeople calling for uprising, fighting in the street, resistance. They're bad-mouthing Trump, saying he's a dictator, that this is all his fault. Yet when it comes to new polling data, he's gone up again, specifically up when it comes to removing illegal criminals. Why the disconnect, and what do you make of these Democrats calling for violence and uprising?
Well, Stephen, I always thought this was going to be the manifestation of the last election. They were never going to accept a legitimate election in which they were defeated because their expertise is in election rigging. Perhaps they thought they were going to be able to rig the last election, but they weren't. This is all really designed to undermine Donald Trump because he's closed the border. They object to that. That destroys their larger plan to remake the entire American electorate. He won't be rushed into war, which is another part of their agenda. This is an organized, coordinated effort. Stephen, in the Paramount section of Los Angeles, who's delivering these pallets of bricks? There are pallets of bricks there to make them handy for the nonviolent protesters to throw. So the FBI, in my opinion, needs to get to the bottom of who is financing this. Most likely, of course, the usual suspects. The other thing that's very clear is that the president learned a hard lesson from the 2020 riots. I think it was his instinct to mobilize the National Guard then. I think he got talked out of it on the basis that the governors should be allowed to handle this. And we saw in the example of Tim Walz, a governor who didn't handle it, who waited until much too late. And overall, across the country, had $2 billion worth of damage to public and private companies. You had 54 deaths. The president was not going to make this mistake again. And Democrat politicians, I think, walk a very thin line. They have an absolute right to criticize ICE arrests if they don't believe in them. But if they aid and abet those seeking to avoid arrest, or if they harbor illegals, or they interfere or attack a law enforcement officer, they too should be arrested. Now, Gavin Newsom would love to get arrested because he needs something to revive his flagging political career. You cannot run for president in 2028 based on the stellar job you have done in California, because California is a basket case in every way: crime, drugs, homelessness, taxes, job opportunities. It is the ultimate manifestation of liberal policies. So if he can use this to define himself as the anti-Trump, that's his golden opportunity. Tom Homan did not threaten to arrest him. Tom Homan said, if any public official harbors an illegal, interferes with the arrest of an illegal, or attacks a law enforcement or ICE agent, they will be arrested. There's nothing wrong with that. Never said Gavin Newsom's name. Newsom is the one who said, hey, Big Tom, come get me. Come arrest me. You wish, pal. You're not going to get arrested. It would make you the Democrat nominee. And we're not going to help you out on that.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective. I have to imagine that a lot of California is just watching this in horror. And he's burning his career to the ground among common sense people, certainly among maybe independents, but the far left crazies that want these illegal criminals, they probably see him as a hero. They see Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, as a hero, but the rest of us, I'm just watching in horror. I keep showing videos to my wife. oh my gosh, they're throwing rocks through policemen's windows when they drive by. They're burning down vehicles. All of the sudden, they have this great need to rob Nike and get a new TV and pick up the latest Apple iPhone. It's crazy to me, but I think you're onto something, because just last night on my show, I was saying I think it really bothered President Trump that he felt like he couldn't do much during the summer of love. I think it bothered him when over in the Seattle area, Chad and Chaz was taking over. And then, of course, the George Floyd situation where Minneapolis was burned to the ground. And many business owners were saying, where's the government helping us? Why is CNN pretending that this is all right? I want to run a clip that we're going to react to together. This is Speaker Johnson talking about the rebranding of Gavin Newsom and his guilt in this whole situation.
The president said, possibly to Jess, that if he were Tom Homan, he would arrest Gavin Newsom. Do you believe that Newsom should face consequences in a legal way?
That's not my lane. I'm not going to give you legal analysis on whether Gavin Newsom should be arrested, but he ought to be tarred and feathered. I'll say that. I mean, look, he's standing in the way of the administration and the carrying out of federal law, right? He is applauding the bad guys and standing in the way of the good guys. He is trying to. He's a participant, an accomplice in our federal law enforcement agents being not just disrespected but assaulted. This is a serious problem, and the governor is now filing a lawsuit against the president. What a joke. Do your job, man. That's what I tell Gavin Newsom. Do your job. Stop working on your rebranding and be a governor. Stand up for the rule of law. He's not doing that. So I don't know what the ultimate measure will be there, but I know that in the interim time, the president of the United States is showing real leadership, and we're not going to allow LA to burn. We've seen this movie before, right? This thing gets out of hand real quickly, especially in a big city like that. And if local and state officials are unwilling or unable to do their job, the president of the United States will.
This is what true leadership looks like. You can't let your city be burned to the ground. Does this ultimately, without the arrest of Gavin Newsom, does this ultimately help him or hurt him? I have to imagine in the midterm elections, for those that are on a more national level, Republicans, they're just going to be running these videos over and over again about how these constituents stood up for illegal criminals versus their own voters, for rapists, human traffickers, people that burn cities to the ground. Your thoughts?
Well, as you would remember, just weeks ago, Gavin Newsom was trying to move to the center, inviting Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk to be on his podcast. He was trying to reinvent himself as the moderate Democrat, which was never going to work. Look, he would like to run for president. He's got one enormous obstacle in his path, and that's Kamala Harris. She is clearly actively considering running for the governorship, which she is abandoning. Any national poll has her as the first choice of Democrats. She just spent $300 million running for president. So he's also got to get past her. The way for him to try to do that is to get to her left, to her progressive left. So this guy zigs right, he zigs left. He really believes in nothing other than Gavin Newsom. I'm perplexed across the board in terms of trying to figure out who the constituency is the Democrats think they're appealing to. Do they really think that American voters, pardon me, care about keeping violent, dangerous illegals in this country? I just don't see the constituency for this. Perhaps they thought during the campaign when Donald Trump made it very clear he was going to deport those here illegally, perhaps they thought he was kidding. But, Stephen, Barack Obama deported 2.9 million people. None of these same people complained about any of that. That was perfectly all right with them. Now when Donald Trump has it, he's a fascist, he's Hitler, he's authoritarian. I mean, these people are out of their minds. I did Piers Morgan's show yesterday, kind of regretfully, because I had to tangle with these demented leftists who think that deporting illegal criminals is somehow fascist. It's beyond belief.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I can't imagine going on Piers Morgan and having to try to defend against these crazy people. Speaking of that, I think one of the main things that Trump did right in this last election cycle was obviously these big rallies, right? Even with being shot in the head, he continued to do those big outdoor rallies, the airport rallies. But I do wonder, with so much national attention on these riots, do these riots do more to make President Trump look sensible and common sense and for America being safe than any of the rallies he put on?
Well, they did not have that impact in 2020 when I think they should have. But I do think that what we have to watch here very carefully is, does this now move from Los Angeles to Chicago, to Minneapolis, to Seattle, and so on? I believe you see that is the plan. General Flynn put out an excellent piece yesterday. This is all part of a plan. These aren't indigenous uprisings. This is not some grassroots revolt. ICE officers are seeking to do their job by arresting illegals, and leftist agitators are getting in the way, throwing rocks, bottles, concrete, baggies of feces and urine at them. I saw one incident yesterday where one of these agitators dropped a cement block from an overhead from a bridge, crashing into the windshield of a police car, an ICE car, badly injuring the driver. I mean, this is the violent left, yet you have brainless morons like Cory Booker. Boy, it's a good thing for him there's not an IQ requirement for the U.S. Senate. Insisting that these protests are peaceful. Like, don't believe your eyes, believe what we tell you. These protests are violent. I think they lose this fight this time because Donald Trump is more experienced, and I think he's acting very aggressively. He's made it very clear if he has to send in the Marines to Los Angeles, he'll do so. Gavin Newsom says that's fascist. No, the president's first responsibility under the U.S. Constitution is to maintain order. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, I think the American people are in the corner of President Trump. I agree with you that this could, I mean, I'm reading that this could spread to San Francisco by the weekend, up into Seattle and Portland, down into Austin and Dallas, Texas. The one that I maybe push back on is Chicago. I think Black Americans in Chicago are really, really mad about their communities being infiltrated, their rent going up. Now they're competing with handout money from the government versus the money that they work for. So I think Chicago might be an area where they really struggle, but we'll have to see. But how come when George Bush Sr. used the National Guard and George Bush Jr. used the National Guard and even Obama, it was okay? But as soon as Donald J. Trump does it, the media keeps saying it's unprecedented, like it's never happened before.
Yeah.
Why is it just because they have Trump derangement syndrome? Everyone loves the thrill of playing for a big prize. And in crypto, prizes don't get any bigger than the OG Bitcoin. Play crypto.com's Freedom Jackpot from today to July 4th, and you might just land a Bitcoin payout. Each time you trade $50 worth of any token in the crypto.com app, you earn a chance to win the jackpot. The more trades you make, the higher your chances of winning. Easy, right? And with over 400 coins to choose from in the app, you won't run out of plays anytime soon. Trades made through the app's crypto basket and recurring buy features count the same. So don't worry if you're diversifying your portfolio or just want to schedule some purchases. Now, the Freedom Jackpot's available across the US, so everyone's got a shot at winning one Bitcoin. Sign up through crypto.com through my link below, and you'll automatically join this limited time event. Don't lose this opportunity to get into crypto with a huge bonus. Isn't that awesome? Crypto.com, they sponsor me. They sponsor Rumble. They sponsor the Lakers. They sponsor UFC with Dana White and all of the big fighters. So this is a really huge opportunity to potentially win a Bitcoin, which right now is trading at over $93,000 a coin.
That's precisely what it is. And they are still in shock about the greatest comeback in American political history, his reelection. They're still very much in shock. Look, as I said earlier, the FBI has the ability to figure out who's financing these rallies, who's orchestrating these protests, who's orchestrating them. If it moves to San Francisco, somebody moved it. Arrest those people. It's not that difficult. Again, the flatbed trucks delivering pallets of bricks and so on. The legal aid lawyers who rush in to post bail immediately for those who are arrested. Question those lawyers. Who retained them? Where did they come from? I think that you are seeing an orchestrated, attempted chaos in the country to destabilize it once again for the removal of Donald Trump. They will never accept his election. If, God forbid, they win the House in the next election, you're going to see the same impeachment nonsense. This time, however, we need to examine the election results a bit more carefully. There's at least 7 members of the House who do not believe that belong there. They did not get more votes than their opponents. So, Speaker Johnson, grow a set, please. The House Administration Committee gets to decide who is seated, who won their election. Kathy Castor in Florida did not win her election. Unseat her. Seat her opponent. He got more real votes than she did. I think there are 3 districts in Orange County, California. Those Democrats, did not win. Do not seat them. Challenge them. All of the evidence is there. All you have to do is have the courage to bring it up. I think in the last election, in all honesty, we were cheated out of at least 3 Senate seats, certainly the one in Wisconsin. And I believe we may have been cheated out of as many as 7 or 8 House seats. If we take the same attitude next time, well, then they'll steal the House.
Okay. How about this Democrat congresswoman in Minnesota saying, I don't know why everyone's making such a big deal. I am illegal in this country. My parents are illegal here in this country. Now people are digging in. She's been voting in our elections. She's serving as a member of Congress in Minnesota. Like, why would you admit that out loud, number one? And number two, shouldn't she be removed immediately?
Well, I appreciate her coming forward and identifying herself. Will make her much easier for Tom Homan to find so that he can arrest and deport her.
Yeah. Okay. This doesn't shock me because John Fetterman says some very MAGA things every now and then. But yesterday he went on record saying that these LA riots are wrong, that Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom need to work with the police, not work against them. And then he said something that was very interesting. He said that this looks really bad. Democrats have lost the moral high ground. The party is really in trouble. You think he's right?
Yeah, I think they stand for nothing. What do they stand for other than open borders and wasting of not millions, not billions, but trillions of dollars in waste, fraud, and corruption, which Elon Musk identified and which they radically object to cutting. So they have no positive agenda. They have no plan to create jobs. They have no plan to bring down the cost of housing. They have no job for energy independence. They have no plan, period. Here's their agenda. We hate Donald Trump. That's their agenda. I just summed it up. Their closing argument in the last presidential election, Trump is Hitler, and if you vote for him, that makes you a Nazi. Nobody is going to rally to that message. Nobody at all. So I think that Fetterman is very smart. He's got to maintain his base in the Democrat Party. If he moves too far to the center, he won't be able to get renominated. That shows how far the Democrat Party has lurched left. Yet his state is moving right. It's moving towards MAGA. And a lot of the things that he speaks out on are common sense things. If, for example, you're against fossil fuels, you don't think we should be mining coal, that's a problem if you're a Democrat in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so you said something earlier. In order to win in some of these sanctuary cities, these super deep blue cities, the only way to win is to go further left than the crazy left person. But in Fetterman's case, he actually needs to go right in order to maintain his seat, because common sense, fossil fuel, fracking, natural gas, all of that is the way for him to win. That makes a lot of sense to me. What doesn't make a lot of sense to me is you got CNN pretending that these riots are peaceful, that this is all Donald Trump's fault, that he is a fascist following the Nazi handbook. This is the same mainstream media organization that defended Joe Biden's mental decline, and then magically Jake Tapper writes a best-selling book. Are we going to get a best-selling book from someone at CNN about how actually these riots are bad and they are Gavin Newsom's fault?
Somehow, I doubt that. CNN is right back to their usual output of manure. I mean, look, I don't get my news from CNN for the same reason I don't drink out of the toilet. Their numbers are embarrassing. They're down to 384,000 households an evening. Some of my shows at the Stone Zone do better than that. Stephen, sometimes you do better than that. So let's put this in context. There are more people watching Stephen Gardner than are watching CNN on any given day. It says great things, first of all, about the power of alternative media, but it doesn't say much about CNN. It's the problem. They have a fundamental problem is nobody believes anything they have to say. I saw Jake Tapper dress Laura Trump down on the air when she suggested that Joe had a cognitive decline problem. He said, that's ridiculous. You don't have the medical expertise to make that. Well, Jake, we could see it with our own eyes. And now you finally admit that you could too. Why didn't you admit it then? Because you're a stooge for the Democrats. Don't say, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. First of all, you're a moron. But secondarily, you're a propagandist. Nothing you say is true. Literally, nothing Jake Tapper says is true. I still have a clip where he was exalted about the possibility that I was going to prison. But here I am free and solid in my belief of Jesus Christ. And everybody in the country now knows he's a buffoon. He's trying to cash in and make money on his own lies. Why don't you just come forward and say the truth, which is, I knew he was slipping. I should have reported it, but instead I reported the exact opposite.
Yeah. Well, that's a terrible business model to become a best-selling author.
Indeed.
Yeah. What do you make of the Elon Musk Donald Trump breakup? And now I'm reading behind the scenes, they're saying, listen, you guys don't have to be besties, but for the good of the country, you guys should make up. Elon has taken down the stupid Jeffrey Epstein stuff. He's starting to highlight Trump and other people again. What are your thoughts on this? And then I'll ask some follow-up questions.
Well, first of all, I think, look, Elon made a very good decision. Once Elon bought Twitter and converted it into X, being the largest free speech platform in the country, but particularly after he released all the records that indisputably proved that the federal government was working with Twitter executives to censor people like you and I, censor people whose political thoughts that were not acceptable, censor people who questioned certain health-oriented questions. He became a target for the left. He almost immediately had 9 different federal investigations into his companies. So I think Elon figured out that if Kamala won, they would yank all of his federal contracts, they would destroy his companies, and they'd probably put him in jail if they could figure out a way to do so. So this is one of the strong reasons why he elected to support Donald Trump. I do think that he was of great assistance. I argue with the idea that he elected Trump. I don't think that's true. I think Trump elected Trump, but I think Elon was helpful. I'm not sure what really set him off. I know initially it was thought to be the fact that the big, beautiful bill did not include enough spending reduction, but structurally, having worked in the House as an aide to a congressman who was on the budget committee, I know that the budget reconciliation bill is not the place to put that. The place to put that is in rescission legislation. They just sent a package for $9 billion up, which sounds like a lot of money, but it would zero out USAID, for example. So I'm not sure whether Elon's unhappiness was a combination of not moving quickly enough on spending, plus the fact that there is no electrical vehicles tax credit in the big, beautiful bill, which I'm told he wanted. Plus, pardon me, a very close friend of his, Jared Isaacman, who was slated to get the NASA position, which presumably would be good for Elon to have a friend in that position. He's in the rocket business, was deselected at the last minute based on his major contributions to Democrats. So I think it may have been the culmination of all of those things. But as you say, Stephen, I think a rapprochement is in the works. I think they will get back together. I think Elon understands that they have a common enemy here. It is the surveillance state. The people who are burning down half of the country, who burned down half the country in 2020, and may be on the cusp of doing it again.
Yeah. Let me throw out two other ideas just from people. The first one is Dr. Drew. He said, listen, one of Elon Musk's great strengths is hypomania, this ability to fixate and dwell on a problem, have all of that alpha male energy to carry his idea across the line, but it can very quickly switch from hypomania to manic, to mania. And he worries that he maybe had like a break or something where just momentarily he just literally could not control himself. You then had Errol Musk, Elon Musk's father, saying, listen, this guy was carrying a lot of weight. Doge, the election, all of the death threats and everything. On top of that, behind the scenes, he's running 6 different companies, putting rockets into space. He said, I think he was honestly just exhausted and needed a break. I don't know. Your thoughts on either of those two?
Well, Richard Nixon once addressed this. I don't psychoanalyze people I haven't even met. And psychoanalyzing someone just by watching them on television or watching them in a video, I think is a bad idea. I could see why Elon would legitimately be upset about the fact that he uncovered trillions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse. We can identify exactly where it is. And it's perfectly logical that should be cut immediately. He's not used to the legislative process in Washington. So I can see how that would get under someone's skin. But again, I would suggest it was the manifestation of all those things. Plus, I watched that interview with Elon's father, who also believes he will get back with Trump, which I'm hopeful for. So I'm not gonna psychoanalyze somebody I've met once. And by the way, I'll tell you this, Stephen, when I met him at Mar-a-Lago, President Trump introduced me to him. I told him to his face, I thought that he was the single most important voice for free speech since the founding fathers themselves. As someone who was banned across the board on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, I appreciated getting my voice back. Yesterday, when I did Piers Morgan's show, which is unfortunately one of those panels with 2 demented leftists, just demented, they had the audacity to talk about the fact that Trump is trying to silence our voices. I said, are you kidding? Have either of you ever been banned on any social media platform? And of course they hadn't. So they just adopt these baseless claims against what Trump is doing because they cannot accept the fact that he beat Kamala Harris in this election.
Yeah. Well, I've always remained hopeful that they will get back together. It may not be the same relationship, but again, if they can, whether they have different visions, if they can pull in the same direction to make America great again and safe again, I think it's for the best for the country. I wanted to ask you this. In the age of the internet, do you think that Richard Nixon would have resigned? Back then, there was very few newspapers and TV stations. They were all against him. Now he would have had an opportunity to, share his side of the story. What are your thoughts on if Richard Nixon would have resigned in today?
I've talked to President Trump about this. President Trump had a good relationship with the retired president when he lived in New York. He recently received Christopher Cox, who's the president's grandson, at the White House. The president has asked me that question. Why did Nixon quit? Why didn't he? Because he was a fighter. Why didn't he fight it out? You put your finger on it, Stephen. At that time, we had a completely monolithic media, 3 television networks, and a bunch of very, very powerful news magazines like Newsweek and Time and Life and Look and so on. Really, we didn't have national newspapers. Watergate makes the Washington Post a national newspaper. But Nixon had no platform from which to launch a counterattack. Everything he said was filtered through the lens of his enemies. So even when he said in a press conference, the American people have a right to know whether their president is a crook. Well, I am not a crook. I have everything. I came by everything I have honestly. They turned around and mocked him for that. I think he would have survived if we had the internet. He would have survived, particularly when you see how minor his crimes when they're compared to the crimes of Barack Obama. Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Susan Rice, James Comey, the FBI director, John Brennan, the CIA director, Andrew McCabe, the deputy FBI director, Rod Rosenstein, the acting attorney general. These people engaged in treason, the greatest single dirty trick in American political history. Nothing less than an abuse of power where they used the full authority of the United States government and the incredible capabilities of our intelligence agencies to use 2 pieces of what they absolutely knew were fabricated evidence. The Steele dossier, fabricated and paid for by Hillary Clinton, and the false claim that the Russians hacked the DNC, for which to this day I challenge anyone, anywhere, to come up with proof that happened. The so-called CrowdStrikes report, which supposedly alleged that, which was withheld from my defense attorneys at trial, we learned in the House Intelligence Committee hearings that were classified at the time that the head of that company admits that he has no proof that the DNC was hacked by the Russians. So they tried to remove Donald Trump, all of them, Robert Mueller, Andrew Weissman, probably the number 1 criminal in the country. And the real question is, will they pay any price for it? We learned only days ago that a number of the key documents were being hidden under a special code in the FBI's computer system. So they were unaccessible by Special Counsel John Durham. They were unaccessible by Inspector General Horowitz. So I'm anxious to see what's in those documents, particularly anxious to see what's in those documents about me or about my friend George Papadopoulos or my friend Carter Page. These people engaged in the greatest crime of all time. This makes Watergate and Richard Nixon look like very small potatoes.
Yeah, like a weekend story that should be done and over by Monday. I believe you said on my show that you believe that Tulsi Gabbard will be the first woman to be president. Do you see like a JD Vance, Tulsi Gabbard ticket in the future? Or I know I've asked you before, you say we're still too far out from the next election, but your thoughts on the 2028 election. Is it going to be JD Vance? Is it going to be Marco Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard?
It's just much too early to say. In politics, a week is a lifetime. I still stick to my prediction that Tulsi Gabbard will be the first woman president. Pardon me. I don't know if that is 2028 or sometime after that. J.D. Vance, as a Republican vice president, has a huge step up. But even when President Trump was asked this on Meet the Press a couple of weeks ago, he said, he was asked specifically, will J.D. Vance follow you? He said, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe. He has a huge advantage, but Marco Rubio may also want to run, which he may. Tulsi Gabbard may want to run. Look, if you want to end up as vice president, you run for president anyway. Perhaps you win the nomination, and if not, if you conduct yourself well, you don't trash the other candidates, you have a high probability of ending up on the ticket. In the 50 years I've been in American politics, I've never met a more talented communicator than Tulsi Gabbard. I also point out the great job she is doing, where she has fired at least 100 key national security advisors who are actively undermining the president's agenda. Quote, anytime John Brennan says you're doing something wrong, that means you're doing something right. I'm waiting for the morning that the FBI raids his home at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Hello,
Mrs. Stone.
Hey, great to have you. You know, usually it's somebody's cat or their dog sneaking in for a kiss. It's good to see your wife. Roger, final question. Trump keeps rising in the polls with this common sense. Is there still room for him to go up in popularity, or is he going to hit a ceiling at some point?
That's a hard question to answer. One thing is very clear, and that is taking decisive action vis-a-vis Los Angeles, closing our border, negotiating to make our trading partners deal fairly with us. In almost every case, their tariff on us is higher than our tariff on them. To try to bring that back into balance, refusing the entreaties of the war hawks to get us into war with Iran. These are all the marks of greatness. I think he has room to grow. Whenever you see a poll at the New York Times, for example, which is not a journalistic outfit, it's not a news outlet. You can read it if you wish, but just remember that nothing you read there, literally nothing, is either accurate or true. It's all propaganda. But when you see a poll there, or the ABC News poll, if you look very carefully, they will tell you that 37% of the people in the poll voted for Donald Trump in the last election. That tells you the poll is cooked, that it's manipulated to show a desired result. And I don't take it too credibly. The polls that I do respect, by pollsters whose methodology I know to be neutral, shows that the president is considering the fake news media attack on him, which is a drumbeat. His numbers are holding up extraordinarily well. In fact, he's gone up a little bit. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think people want dangerous immigrant gangbangers out on the street.
No, I know that they don't. I see it when I do my polling on YouTube. I think he's doing a great job. You're doing a great job. I know your voice is. You do so many shows. You're bringing your wisdom and decades of experience to the table every single day. If people want to follow you online and catch you, where can I point them towards?
Sure, two places. One, you can go to stonezone.com. That's where you find everything Roger Stone. So you can find all of my radio shows there in archive. You can find it in real time. You can find everything I write. You can get all my products, my books. You can also, every day at 8 p.m. Eastern, you can go to WABCradio.com. No matter where you are on the globe, go to WABCradio.com, and you can listen to The Roger Stone Show from 8 to 9 o'clock Eastern, 5 nights a week. And then on Sundays, from 3 to 5, there's the Roger Stone Show, which runs on every Sunday, once again, at WABCradio.com. So during the week, the Stone Zone at 8. On Sundays, the Roger Stone Show, 3 to 5.
Okay. I'll put those direct links down below. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Stephen. Great to be with you as always.